We are back with another FPL video, this time talking about the transfer tips, and I've made a slight tweak in terms of the graphics and also in terms of the structure of this video. So normally I talk about 3 players to buy, hold, sell and skip in each section. This time I'm going to talk about 10 players in each of these videos, and it could be random. There could be, let's say, 4 buys in a video and only 1 skip. So I've changed things up a little bit. Let me know what you think of the slight tweaks to the format, and if you end up enjoying this video, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. We're getting ever closer towards 20,000 subscribers. We reached 19,000 the other day, so the support is massively appreciated. But without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. Wissa is the highest scoring forward at this point in FPL with 22 points, and Awani is the closest, only 2 points behind. But Wissa still has some fantastic fixtures coming up, and there might be the odd tough one like Newcastle away and Man United away on the horizon. But you're looking at Bournemouth at home next. I would expect the likes of Wissa and Mbeumo to do terrifically well. And I actually covered Mbeumo in last week's video, and I said I think that Crystal Palace could cause problems to Brentford, and I see a low-scoring game, and that's why Mbeumo's a long-term purchase, but I wasn't so sure about buying him specifically for Game Week 3 because I think he will blank. But it's all about the long term, and even if Wissa were to blank against Bournemouth, I'm fairly confident he'll do extremely well over the next 5 game weeks and also even into the longer term. So long as Tony is suspended, which is until January, I think Wissa and Mbeumo will do a terrific job there leading the line for Brentford. His ownership is around 16.7%, so it is increasing quite gradually. He's got 2 goals and 1 assist so far, and his expected goals is almost 2, so decent numbers that do back it up. His expected assists and creativity isn't anything special, but with Wissa you're going to get goals, and he's also very good in terms of FPL points per minute, and actually in terms of bonus points he's even better than Mbeumo, picking up 5, which is actually impressive considering he is a forward in this game and had that positional change during the summer from a midfielder to a forward. But I still think if you're looking for a forward, I know Jackson will be everyone's cup of tea. He's got some fantastic fixtures and I still think he's a good option, but I would argue that Wissa is even better. Raheem Sterling has a terrific record against newly promoted clubs, and that's why he produced a 19-point haul against Luton Town. He has 14 goals in 16 appearances against newly promoted sides, and against Nottingham Forest, who aren't a newly promoted side, but he's got a good record against them as well. Last season, he scored a brace at home against Forest and also a goal away from home. And I think he's a good short-term purchase. If you look at the next 5 fixtures, they are fantastic for Chelsea. Beyond that, I'd be less keen on Sterling. But if you're looking for a short-term purchase, maybe you're looking to sell an Arsenal or Man United midfielder, I think Sterling is a terrific buy. And I have to say, I didn't expect him to be that explosive. I expected him to return against Luton Town, but not to that level. And he turned out to be the best captaincy option. So fair play to those of you who went for him, and that's why I always encourage you to play it your way. I didn't see him outscoring so many of these key assets like Bruno Fernandes, Haaland, etc., but he did. His ownership is now 8.8%. It keeps on going up every time I check, and with good reason. I think over the next 5 game weeks, Sterling will do really well, perhaps even better than the likes of Jackson, and whilst Chilwell remains my favourite Chelsea asset, I think Sterling is definitely in the conversation in the top 3 for the best Blues assets overall. He's got 2 goals and 1 assist. His expected goals figure is also 1.38, and there were 2 blanks in the first 2 game weeks, but even against West Ham, he won the penalty, which Enzo Fernandez missed, and he had a very good performance overall. In Game Week 38 last season against Newcastle, he also played very well. So there are signs of Sterling getting back to his best. I still don't think he'll reach the levels that he did at Man City, but I still think he'll do a pretty good job, especially over the next 5 game weeks. You might be thinking, if you're going to discuss a Liverpool forward, surely it's going to be Darwin Núñez, but I still think Diaz has been the most impressive over the first 3 game weeks, and if you have a Salah and you want to diversify your team and take money out of him and redistribute it across your squad, then I think going to Diaz is a very sound pick. The fixtures aren't too great over the next 5. You've got Aston Villa, Tottenham and Brighton, but I still think Diaz can do really well in those fixtures, and Liverpool will score goals in most games, if not all. And he is 7.7 million, so he's been very popular over the first 2 game weeks. But now, after being subbed off very early on, after the red card to Virgil van Dijk, people will be a bit colder on the Colombian. But I still think he has been so impressive, and I've completely changed my opinion about him, because going into this season, I saw him as arguably the worst of the Liverpool midfielders slash forwards when you're comparing him to Gakpo, Darwin Nunez, and a few others like Jota and Salah. But I think Diaz is easily second or third amongst the best Liverpool assets in the game, and that includes a better asset than Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is 0.3 million more expensive, and usually you'd go for Trent, but at this moment in time, Liverpool do concede a lot of chances. I have to say, they defended quite well after going down to 10 men, and if they showed that level of commitment and defensive organisation, then I'd be more keen on going for a Trent Alexander-Arnold. But I think Diaz is a really good option. He's still quite low owned, relatively speaking, at 13.5%. He's got 2 goals, 0 assists, and his XG is quite impressive considering he was subbed off so early on in the third match, and that's not going to happen too often, only if Liverpool get a red card, so that's something to definitely note. And Diaz takes so many shots in every single game, even in the one where he was subbed off against Newcastle, he was still able to have a shot, and it was a really good one, which definitely caused Newcastle some problems. So Luis Diaz is one of the best midfielders to buy, and I would argue the best Liverpool asset at this moment in time. Phil Foden can be very frustrating, and in Game Week 3 it was no fault of his own. I believe he was ill and that's why he was left out of the starting 11. He travelled late with the Man City squad but was still able to make an impact off the bench, assisting Rodri's winner against Sheffield United, and I think he is a good asset. He's worth holding, especially over the next 4 game weeks where Man City should win all of those games quite comfortably and score plenty of goals. And Foden comes in at 7.6 million and his ownership is around 14%. It actually has gone down a little bit since the last time I've been making these graphics, and he's only got 2 assists and 0 goals, but still very good in terms of the bonus points. He was absolutely fantastic against Newcastle in Game Week 2. His expected goal involvement is 1.44, and he's got the same amount of FPL points as Luis Diaz, and of course both of them didn't really play the full 90 in Game Week 3, so that does sway things a little bit. So I think Foden is worth holding, and especially if you've got 2 Arsenal midfielders and also 2 Man United midfielders, prioritise selling those players instead, like Martinelli, Rashford, and a few other players we'll be getting onto very soon. I would definitely recommend holding Foden at this moment in time, despite the early signs of potential trolling by the Englishman. I will admit, Onana's next 5 fixtures don't look great overall. Only Burnley and Crystal Palace look quite encouraging. You would expect Arsenal, Brighton and Brentford all to score, but you just never know. And Man United are very strong defensively in home matches, at least for last season, because you look at the expected goals conceded figure this time round, and it's 5.31 in just 3 games, and that is extremely worrying. And Onana got the bulk of his points in Game Week 1 against Wolves, where he kept his only clean sheet, and in Game Week 2, only a 2-pointer. And this time round in Game Week 3, he produced a 0-pointer after also being booked and conceding 2 goals in 4 minutes. So United definitely aren't up to the races so far. They've got the attacking quality to bail them out at times, and I still think Onana is a good asset worth holding, and it might take time for him to be accustomed to the new defence and for Man United to start clicking. They've got some key injuries to Mason Mount and Luke Shaw, and I still think Onana will come good regardless of when those players will come back into the side. His ownership is still quite high. It's the highest of any goalkeeper, but it has gone down quite significantly from 29% in the Game Week 3 deadline to 27.9% at the time of this recording. He has made 13 saves, and that's what I like about him. Also the bonus points potential, but I am very worried about the expected goals conceded figure and the amount of chances that Man United are letting up. But I'd still keep him. I know the next 2 fixtures don't look great, but after that, Man United have some very good long-term fixtures, and I would expect Onana to keep plenty of clean sheets and be a great FPL asset. Gabriel went down in price already last week, and it wouldn't surprise me if he went down yet again in the build-up to Game Week 4. He is 4.9 million now, and his ownership is 19%, and that is just going to continue to decrease as more and more managers sell him, and his goals and assist figure is 0 because he's only played 24 minutes. He's only been able to produce 2 FPL points, and as a result, he's the second most transferred out player, only behind Luke Shaw, who is injured. I honestly have no idea what's going on with the Gabriel situation. A lot of people will be pointing towards the new tactics and Arsenal wanting more comfortable defenders on the ball, but I don't think that's an excuse for Kivior starting over Gabriel in Game Week 3. Gabriel is much more physically imposing, much better in the air, and I think Gabriel was probably sorely missed in the equaliser Fulham scored through Joao Paulinho in the set piece, and Arsenal do struggle a lot from set pieces, and to then take out your best defender from those situations is quite a bit of a worry. And I think if you've got Gabriel, unfortunately he's a sell. I thought he'd did come back into the side in Game Week 2 and then once again in Game Week 3, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. It wouldn't surprise me if he came back into the side in Game Week 4, as most people sell him, but I still think he's a sell because you know that this is possible in the future and you'd rather go for a nailed-on defender like Saliba, and you've got so many alternatives from other teams like Chilwell with much better fixtures. Arsenal do face Man City very soon, Man United and Tottenham as well, and despite the fact that they're all home games, I wouldn't expect too many clean sheets from Arsenal in the next 5 game weeks. So really, if you're going to get an Arsenal defender, go for Saliba, but I'd also be prepared to bench him from time to time. And as for Gabriel, he's just an easy sell. Another Gabriel from Arsenal and another sell is Gabriel Martinelli. He's still at 8 million, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did go down in price very soon. His ownership is 14% and he's only got 1 assist in 3 games. His expected goal involvement is also 1.02, which isn't bad. You know, it's not too far behind the likes of Foden and Diaz, but normally Martinelli is much better in these metrics, and last season he was even better than Saka and Odegaard for expected goals and assists combined. His FPL points is only 10, and you look at those fixtures, Man United, Tottenham and Man City at home all on the horizon, and even those so-called good fixtures like Everton away and Bournemouth away. I'm particularly looking at Everton, which is not really a happy hunting ground for Arsenal in recent years. They haven't won since Arsene Wenger has left the club, so that's 5 years ago now. So I think Martinelli is actually worth selling, especially if you've got a double up in Arsenal midfield. I would rather keep Saka and potentially Odegaard too. And if you've also got a double up in Man United midfield, I think the plan is to get rid of one of each of those teams. I think that seems like the optimum play. And while I think Martinelli will bounce back and become a very good FPL asset once again, at this moment in time, he's worth selling. Marcus Rashford has been very disappointing, but after being shifted to the left against Nottingham Forest in Game Week 3, he was more impressive, produced 2 assists, and I think that is going to be his position from now until the end of the season, especially when Rasmus Højlund comes back from injury, which could be as soon as Game Week 4 against Arsenal. So I think Rashford could become a very good asset in the weeks to come. But if you've got Bruno Fernandes and Rashford, I would rather keep Bruno at this moment in time and sell Rashford. Going into Game Week 1 this season, my kind of preseason prediction was that Bruno Fernandes will outscore Rashford. Maybe not by much, but I would expect Bruno Fernandes to get more FPL points. And so far, that has rung true, but there's a long way to go. We've got 35 game weeks left, so it's not worth delving into whether you're right or wrong at this stage, you know, too much. But I think Rashford is still a good asset overall, but at 9 million, you can get much better value from Sterling, Mbeumo, James Maddison, who all have better fixtures as well. You could argue that after the next 2 game weeks for Man United, the fixtures do turn up, and they're actually pretty impressive over the next 5 to 10, you know, from game week 7 onwards. But I still think Rashford is a sellable asset, and if you've got those double ups in Man United and Arsenal midfield, Martinelli and Rashford do seem like the best ones to sell at this moment in time. His expected goals involvement figure is 1.43, and despite that being quite impressive, it's still even lower than Bruno Fernandes. So only 12 FPL points so far, a disappointing start to the season, but Game Week 3 did point towards a possible resurgence for Marcus Rashford. The final sell of this video is Joao Pedro, and as referred to at the beginning of this video, there is a change to the structure where you can have 4 sells, for example, as we've done here today, and I think that makes things more unpredictable, and we have gone from 12 players covered to 10 to make things a little bit more concise. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Joao Pedro has gone down in price overnight, back down to 5.5 million, and his ownership is steadily decreasing. It's now 19.8%. He scored a penalty in Game Week 1, missed an open goal as well, and that's why his expected goals figure is 1.51, but only 1 start out of 3, and despite the fact that Enciso has picked up a long-term injury, Joao Pedro still didn't start in Game Week 3. I thought he would, but I wasn't sure enough to really recommend him, and I still encourage many of you in the deadline stream to sell Joao Pedro, especially to Jackson, Wissa, and potentially even Alvarez as well. You look at the fixtures coming up for Brighton, and even after these 5 fixtures you see on screen, Man City is the game afterwards, so things aren't looking too good from a fixtures perspective, and Joao Pedro isn't going to start the vast majority of games, even with Enciso out. So I think this is the easiest sell of the video, and look, he's still good for his price and he will return quite well when he does get those starts, but I just don't think it's worth keeping Joao Pedro at this moment in time. We have arrived at the conclusion of this video. The 10th and final player covered is Jarrod Bowen, and I have to stress, Jarrod Bowen is a fantastic option in Game Week 4 against Luton Town at home, but if you are looking for a midfielder then I would highly encourage you to go for Mbumo, Maddison, Raheem Sterling, and a few other options we've discussed in the last couple of weeks. I don't think Jarrod Bowen is a good long-term acquisition. Luton Town and Sheffield United at home in the next 4 look fantastic, but Man City at home, I'd probably expect Bowen to blank. And then you look at Liverpool away and Newcastle at home. Those are some really tough fixtures for West Ham, despite the fact that they are flying and currently, I think, second in the league table. Jarrod Bowen has 6% ownership. That is only increasing every time I check it. It was around 4% when I was first making these graphics. He's got 2 goals and 1 assist, and his expected goal involvement figure is 2.3, which is the best of any player covered so far in this video. So I think Jarrod Bowen has some really impressive numbers. He sometimes plays down the middle for West Ham as well, and he's got 5 bonus points. I was very surprised to see West Ham put Brighton to the sword in a 3-1 performance there, and Jarrod Bowen was at the heart of that. And if you look at West Ham midfielders, I think Bowen and James Ward-Prowse are the best assets by far of any West Ham asset. But after the Luton Town at home, I just don't think it's worth having Jarrod Bowen. So if you've got him, definitely keep him for Luton Town. You could even captain him in Game Week 4. And if you want someone for 1 game week, then I would highly recommend you go for Jarrod Bowen. If you're looking to play the free hit, Jarrod Bowen once again ticks the bill. But in terms of a long-term purchase, I don't think Jarrod Bowen is it. And if you are looking for a midfielder, I think there are better assets elsewhere who will do better in the long term. And that's just my personal opinion, of course. I could be wrong. And he has done it in the past against Man City. And the way Liverpool are defending, at least in the first 2 game weeks, you could see West Ham doing something and at least scoring a goal and causing some problems. But I just don't think those fixtures warrant a purchase for Jarrod Bowen, especially if you want someone beyond 1 game week. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. It's been a pleasure covering all these players here today and also engaging in the comment section and the live chats of all my live streams. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's try to get this video to over 200 likes. Let's keep on pushing towards 20,000 subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon, channel memberships, Discord server, and the FPL League. All of that is there. I wish you all the best of luck for Game Week 4. Enjoy the rest of the build-up to the upcoming deadline, and I'll see you next time.